Welcome to another explainer. Honestly, I'm absolutely pumped to dig into today's topic with you because it totally flipped the script on how I understand human behavior. You see, most of us, we think manipulation is, super obvious. We picture the lying, the yelling, the aggressive gaslighting. But the most dangerous manipulators out there, they don't raise their voice. No, they raise your doubts. And today, we're going to clinically dissect exactly how they pull it off. We're looking at 7 rare, incredibly subtle manipulation tactics that most folks literally never recognize until they're already caught in the web.
Okay, so let's dive right into this structured breakdown. Here's our roadmap. We're grouping these 7 tactics into 3 distinct psychological traps: controlling the narrative, weaponizing your emotions, and distorting your reality. Let's get to it.
Part 1. The invisible threat. When manipulation whispers. Have you ever walked away from an argument just feeling completely confused and off balance? Well, that happens because true manipulation hides right in plain sight.
Which brings us to trap number 1, controlling the narrative, weaponizing your own words. This is all about how manipulators magically dodge accountability by cleverly turning your own statements and questions right back against you.
The first tactic they use here is called conversational ownership. And basically, this means controlling the direction of a conversation without the other person even realizing it's happening. It's kind of like a magic trick. You ask them a direct question, right? And they'll give you this incredibly brief answer, and then boom, they quickly pivot the topic to something entirely different, usually something perfectly designed to throw you completely off balance.
Let's look at a real-world example. Say you ask a simple, totally fair question, like, "Hey, why didn't you show up yesterday?" Instead of actually explaining their absence, they pivot. They hit you back with, "Why are you always assuming the worst about me?" Wow. Just like that, the conversation is absolutely no longer about them missing the engagement. Nope. Now it's about you. It's about your attitude and your perceived flaws. They didn't yell, they didn't outright lie, but they totally seized ownership of the narrative. And suddenly, you're the one scrambling to explain yourself.
All right, tactic number 2 is intentional misinterpretation. This is the act of twisting someone's words specifically to force them onto the defensive. So you state a basic boundary and they intentionally twist what you meant. Why do they do this? Because it forces you into what we can call clarifying mode. And let me tell you, when you are desperately trying to clarify your intentions, the manipulator has gained total, absolute control over the flow of that interaction.
Just look at the vivid contrast here. You say something perfectly healthy like, "I need some space," and they instantly twist it into, "Oh, so you're abandoning me." Do you see what just happened? You are now frantically scrambling to defend a stance you never even took. You're no longer getting the space you asked for, you're way too busy proving that you aren't abandoning them. It's basically conversational judo, and sadly, it works incredibly well. Moving on to trap number 2, weaponizing your emotions, empathy and silence as leverage. Now, I'm going to slow down a bit here, because this is where manipulators take your own natural, beautiful reactions, like your empathy and your anxiety, and use them as literal tools for control. Tactic number 3 is called strategic vulnerability. And on the surface, you guys, this looks so innocent. It might even look like genuine emotional growth. They reveal a weakness or a painful story to make you let your guard down. But here is the catch. It's the timing. It's 100% calculated. They'll drop a sad story about a difficult childhood, or maybe their voice gets a little shaky, or they shed a single well-timed tear literally right as you're about to hold them accountable. Your natural empathy kicks in and you think, "Oh man, maybe I should go easy on them." But here's the clinical truth we really need to grasp. The point isn't authentic connection. The point is leverage. That vulnerability, it just bought them a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Now, tactic number 4 is the exact opposite extreme of vulnerability. It's the emotional timeout. This is when they go emotionally absent and completely silent when things get tense. But let's be super clear. This isn't just someone needing a minute to cool off. They become a void. No replies, no facial expressions, no warmth, just a cold, empty wall. It is absolutely vital to recognize that this kind of silence is not passivity. Oh no, it is a profound, highly aggressive power move.
And that cold emptiness is perfectly designed to trigger what we call the scramble. Confronted with that wall, your brain just goes into absolute overdrive. Did I go too far? Did I say something wrong? Oh my gosh, should I apologize? You start overthinking every single syllable you uttered. And the real tragedy here, you often do end up apologizing. Not because you were actually in the wrong, but simply because the silence became literally unbearable. Think about that. They didn't even need to argue with you. They just made you argue with yourself.
All right, let's look at part 3, the final and definitely most disorienting trap. distorting your reality, breaking down your logical defenses. This is where the manipulator sustains an attack on your fundamental grip on truth and fairness over a long period of time.
Tactic number 5 is known as reverse anchoring. This one hides right behind the illusion of compromise. It works by starting with a totally extreme request to make the actual, smaller goal seem like a perfectly reasonable compromise. So, they hit you with an outrageous demand, a bold accusation, or an unfair deal. Naturally, you're like, no way, and you reject it. Well, that was just the setup. Then they sigh, soften their stance, and offer something that sounds significantly more reasonable. And because you're comparing it to that crazy first offer, you willingly accept it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the twist. You walk away thinking, phew, I successfully negotiated them down. We found a fair compromise. But the reality? That softer request was their true target all along. You didn't win the negotiation at all. Nope, you just walked right into it halfway, entirely on their terms.
Okay, tactic number 6 leverages a really strange but very real psychological phenomenon called the illusion of truth effect. Basically, this is the human tendency to believe information is correct just after repeated exposure. Studies consistently show that the more often we hear something, the more likely we are to believe it, even if it's factually false. Manipulators know this. They'll take a lie or maybe a half-truth and deliberately, relentlessly repeat it over time to just completely wear down your critical thinking.
Let's actually walk through how this degradation process happens, step by step. Step 1, the lie. They tell you, you're just way too sensitive. Step 2, resistance. You push back. You say, no, I'm not. I'm literally just setting a normal boundary. But then comes step 3, repetition. They say it again the next week, and then the next month. They casually drop it into random conversations, and slowly, your defenses just erode. Which leads right to step 4, belief. Eventually, you stop defending yourself entirely. You start wondering, maybe I am too sensitive. Boom! Your reality has been successfully distorted.
And our final tactic, number 7, is triangulation. This is a classic, highly toxic move. It's when they bring a third person into your private conflict to validate their own point and systematically isolate you. It is entirely designed to create immense pressure and make you feel like the outsider in your own relationship.
They'll casually drop a line like, well, even Sarah thinks you're overreacting, or all my friends agree that you've changed lately. And here is the cruel genius of this. It literally doesn't even matter if Sarah actually said that. The manipulator is just surrounding you with supporters, real or completely imagined, to maximize the pressure. Their one and only goal is to make you feel like the crazy one, forcing you to totally question your own sanity.
Part 4, actually, scratch that. Part 5, recognizing the game, escaping the trap. Let's shift gears here and talk about how to protect yourself, looking at this clinically and confidently.
So we've mapped out the traps, but here's your ultimate takeaway for this explainer. Once you recognize the game, you stop playing by their rules. Remember, these whispered tactics rely entirely on the shadows. They only work when they're hidden in plain sight, disguised as just a normal conversation or a standard emotional reaction. But the very second you name the tactic, the moment you realize, oh wait, this is conversational ownership, or this is an emotional timeout, or they're using triangulation, their power just evaporates. Awareness isn't just half the battle, it is absolutely your best defense.
Which brings us to our final thought. You now have the framework to spot these subtle manipulations the absolute second they happen. The fog is lifting. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative question. Now that you see the patterns so clearly, whose reality are you going to live in? Yours or the one they've been trying to build for you? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes open, always trust your own perspective, and I will catch you in the next one.